Whether you're getting the best in news, politics, and pop culture each week with the Political Deep Dive, or you're enjoying the latest news from the world of hockey on the Thursday Night Hockey Show, we thank you for watching. But you may wonder how you can help grow the show. Head on over to youtube.com/papaduke. Click subscribe to see our content show up on your YouTube feed. Click on the thumbs up button on the video to let us know that you like our content. Click that bell icon to get notified when new content drops or we're live. Each of those things lets YouTube know to put this content in front of more people. The more people we get, the more people engage and improve our content. As always, we thank you for being a loyal viewer to our shows. These shows would be nothing without you. Hey there, everybody. Dave Valente. Thank you for joining us on the Thursday Night Hockey Show. Lots to talk about this week. Not a lot of time to talk about it. So we'll go right into it. Let's talk about some breaking news. All right, and this week's news in the world of hockey. Last Thursday, before we got off the show, the Canadian World Junior team was taking on Czechia in the gold medal game of the World Junior Championship. Canada won that game in overtime in a golden goal from Dylan Gunther. The score was 3-2 over Czechia. They win gold. Czechia wins silver, and the United States wins bronze. We had talked about the wild bronze medal game between the United States and Sweden that ended 8-7 in overtime. The United States got bronze in that tournament. The real story of the tournament, though, was the preseason and pre-tournament pick to be the top player, Connor Bedard, delivered. Even though he was sold off with the score sheet in the gold medal game, he ended the tournament with 23 points, 9 goals, 14 assists. To give you some context, the next highest person in that tournament was Logan Cooley for the United States. He had 7 goals and 7 assists for 14 points, so a full 9 points fewer than Connor Bedard, which really just solidifies Bedard's draft status as the presumptive number one overall pick in this draft coming up. I didn't think there was much doubt that he would come out still as the presumptive number one pick, but I think this kind of gets people thinking that he is kind of one of those generational talents, and probably every parent seeing Connor McDavid and Connor Bedard is going to start naming their kids Connor in Canada and in the hockey regions of the United States. So, other superlatives that came out of the World Junior Hockey Championships. The MVP was, of course, Connor Bedard, as was the best forward and as the best, the top team, the team of the tournament. David Juracek of the Czechs, the Columbus draft pick, was the top defenseman of the tournament, and best goalie was Adam Gajan of the Slovakian team. So that's the top players of the tournament. The top team of the tournament, the All Star team of the tournament, Connor Bedard, the aforementioned Logan Cooley of the United States and Uri Kulik, the Buffalo Sabres prospect, was one of the top forwards. The top defensive pairing was Ludvig Jansson of Sweden and David Juracek of Czechia. And then the top goalie of the tournament, which is strange that the best goalie, Gagin, didn't win the goalie All Star goalie, and that's Thomas Suhanik of the Czech Republic. Um, it was a good tournament. It was very interesting, very entertaining, and we it's great to see that this part is getting back to normal because last year the tournament started and was stopped by a bout of COVID. They actually had to play the tournament in summer. It kind of added to the crowded calendar of the NHL and other tournaments. Playing well into July in the NHL and then turning around and having the World Juniors. It's great to have hockey year round. Usually it's a tough 3 months between June and September and when the training camps open. But this is just showing that the calendar is getting back to normal. We'll have a normal off season, normal draft time, normal free agency period for hockey. Knock on wood that nothing other stupid happens. But speaking of the calendar, we're now a month and a half away from the NHL trade deadline, which is on March 3rd. Um, we haven't really had many trades in the NHL this season, usually swapping, low end player. The probably the biggest trade was Brian Reeves being traded. I'm sorry, Ryan Reeves being traded from the New York Rangers to the Minnesota Wild for a fifth round pick. Um, that's the biggest name out there so far. I expect it to pick up. You got guys getting close to the end of their contract. You got teams that are trying to tank for Connor Bedard that have players that they would like to peddle for draft picks. Um, and I think teams are starting to realize that the earlier they get a player in, the easier that or the better the transition goes. They have a lot more time to develop chemistry with teammates going into the playoffs. The only other factor that's going to keep trades from happening very early is the flat cap with the NHL salary cap. They're just not going to be able to get players in until a certain point because of a lot of these teams that are very competitive are right up against the salary cap. Notable exceptions would be Buffalo, with just a ton of cap space. So um, just keep an eye out on that. We're going to start a four-part series, the next four episodes, where we would take each division and break down the team's needs, tell you which teams are going to be sellers and which teams are going to be buyers at the trade deadline. And hopefully over the next 4 weeks, we'll have some trades to talk about because that's an integral part of the game and the fun part of the game. Now, I don't want everything to happen before March 3rd. March 3rd is always like a high holy day on the and not sure why I was hitting that. Oops. Anyway, uh, it's the it's a high holy day on the calendar for hockey fans. So I usually take the day off work and then just enjoy the day, talk about the trades and stuff like that. So um, I'm hoping it's not a dud because all the great trades have happened before then. But I would like to see a few things happen before we get too far into the calendar year, especially as we're talking about the trade deadline coming up. Um, the other news is that we've had the All Star teams announced, the part of the All Star teams. I talked about last week when we were um, uh, talking about the All Star team being released. It's only a partial team. They picked the 8 representatives in each division from the 8 teams. So, but there is some controversy on the list, and we'll talk about that as we go through the teams. But uh, you know, for me, I get that you were talking about the 8 players that represent the league and the best players. So let's take a look at the All Stars from the Atlantic Division. We'll get into it a little bit. So from the Atlantic Division, we've got Tage Thompson from Buffalo, well deserved. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. Dylan Larkin from Detroit. one of the better players in Detroit. I don't have a problem with that. Matthew Kachuk from Florida. Again, Florida's woes aren't because of Matthew Kachuk, but they're probably because they got rid of Jonathan Huberdeau. Um, and I don't have a problem with him being named to the team. Nick Suzuki, uh, it could be between him and Cole Caulfield, and I wouldn't have had a problem with either player being picked. But yeah, Suzuki makes it for the Montreal Canadiens. Probably the only player that makes it for the Montreal Canadiens. Brady Kachuk. So both Kachuk brothers will be playing on the Atlantic All Star team. Um, so yeah, Ottawa's representative is Brady Kachuk. Steven Stamkos from the Tampa Bay Lightning is the Tampa representative. Uh, you know, I'd have to look at the stats. I haven't really looked at the stats too hard for Tampa to say, Stammer's having a better year than Kucherov or anyone else. Um, so I'm not too bothered by that. The one that I am bothered by is Mitch Marner for Toronto. I know he had the long streak, um, the long point scoring streak, longest in several years. I get that, but I still think that the better player on the team and the more exciting player is Austin Matthews. But Marner's had a breakout year, and for a good player to have a breakout year, that says something. And then Linus Ullmark for Boston. There are a few players you could put for Boston. Boston's leading the NHL by a mile, and but the NHL did reserve one spot on each of these teams for a goalie, so you have it. But the interesting thing with the All Stars for the Atlantic Division is that there are no defensemen on this team. So they got to hope that three defensemen are the top vote getters. Um, Three or four defensemen are the top vote getters for the All Star team. Or this team is going to have a couple unbalanced lines. It's 3-on-3. You can get away with having three forwards playing out there, but yeah, no defenseman for the Atlantic. My hope is that Rasmus Dahlin does get voted onto the team. Um, Go to NHL.com to vote in the All Star game voting. You can vote by Twitter as well. Um, but yeah, so I hope you get somebody like Pasternak, uh, uh, Darlene, and Austin Matthews. That would be ideal, even though it would give the Atlantic only one defenseman in the entire team. So, same deal with the Metro All Stars. Let's take a look at their roster here. So for the Metros, we're talking Svechnikov for California, California, Carolina. Haven't had California in the NHL in many years. Uh, Gaudreau for Columbus. Not Luke Hughes. There are too many damn Hughes brothers. Uh, Jack Hughes for the New Jersey Devils. Brock Nelson for the Islanders. Kevin Hayes for the Philadelphia Flyers. Sidney Crosby for Pittsburgh, of course. Alexander Ovechkin for Washington, of course. And Igor Shesterkin for the Rangers. Um, I don't have a problem with Shesterkin. I would have liked to have seen Panarin on the list, and maybe he gets voted in. Maybe another Carolina Hurricane. They've been having a tremendous season. Maybe uh, another Devil on the list because they've been having a phenomenal season. Um, but yeah, that's who I hope for with the Metro. But not a bad team. Not too many controversies on this team. Going to the Central Division, we've got Clayton Keller of the Arizona Coyotes. Uh, Robertson for the Dallas Stars, Kaprizov for the Minnesota Wild, Vladimir Tarasenko. There's an asterisk by his name because Tarasenko is injured and will be replaced by somebody from St. Louis. I'm not sure who yet. I don't know if they've announced that yet. Seth Jones from the Chicago Blackhawks, the phenom Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche, Josh Morrissey is having a phenomenal season for the Winnipeg Jets, and UC Saros, goaltender for the Nashville Predators. Don't have a problem with any of these, although you can make an argument for Connor Hellebuck for the for a goaltender. I don't think you're going to see another goaltender chosen. Um, let's see. Yeah, I don't have too much of a problem with with the list here. Keller's had a phenomenal season. Robertson's, all world. So is Kaprizov. This is a good list. It's hard to pick somebody in Chicago because they've all had pretty stinker seasons. Seth Jones is as good as it gets, and the other guys are good. So let's go on to the Pacific. The all-world cover boy of the NHL 23 did not make the All-Star team. Troy Terry is the representative for Anaheim. Nazem Kadri takes the spot for Calgary. Connor McDavid, not a surprise. Edmonton's representative. Although I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, well, Leon Draisaitl snubbed. He's the second leading scorer in the NHL." Yeah, well, here's the first one. Who is the first leading scorer in the NHL? It's Connor McDavid, and you get one representative per team chosen by the NHL. It's not a snub. It's just the fact that you play with Connor McDavid, and a lot of your points come from Connor McDavid. So, not saying that Draisaitl's a schlub. He should be voted onto the team. Um, it's just you're playing with McDavid. You're not going to get the All Star spot over him. Kevin Fiala from the Los Angeles Kings, Matty Beniers of the Seattle Kraken, Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks, and Carlson for the San Jose Sharks, and Logan Thompson of the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't have a problem with anybody on this list. Eric Carlson's had a phenomenal season for San Jose. Pettersson is as good as it gets for the Canucks, who've had a disappointing season. But I am surprised that Terry did get the nod. He's had a decent season, um, but Zegras has been the cover boy at NHL 23. He's the flashy guy. Although he hasn't really had like the big flashy goals this year. He hasn't. He's. I think people are watching him a little harder now, and it's harder to get the flashy goals than kind of flying under the radar as the young phenom. So, um, but still, surprising that you get Troy Terry as the Anaheim representative. Nazem Kadri's had a really good season so far. Like I said, the rest of the team gets voted on. You go to NHL.com. There's the All Star voting. Of course, the All Star game's in Florida, I think February 3rd, so like a month before the trade deadline. Of course, they'll have league meetings there and maybe some trade activity when we talk about the All Star game. But yeah, it's go to NHL.com, vote on the All Star team. You get to pick, I think, two skaters, two skaters and a goalie for each side. So yeah, there is two goalies. Um, so two goalies, maybe Ilya Sorokin for the Metro. Who would you do for Atlantic? One of the Toronto goaltenders. They're both playing really well. For the Central, maybe Flurry. Maybe well, actually Hellebuck. I think Hellebuck would be the best choice. And then and I think that's who I voted for when I did the vote. And then for the Pacific, uh, wow, maybe Markstrom. Yeah. Anyway, so All Star game, February 3rd in Sunrise, Florida, South Florida, Miami. So check it out. They're still doing the 3-on-3 tournament. And it's okay. It's not my favorite thing. Um, I do like the skills competition, and I look forward to the skills competition coming up. So let's go on to the injury report. All right, so let me clear this off. Uh, what's going on with the injury report this week is that Freddie Anderson is set to return for the Carolina Hurricanes, so the Canes get healthier. They're already in first place in the Metro Division, and they'll get Freddie Anderson back in nets. Although you can't fault their tandem right now. Both have been playing well, but Freddie Anderson's making the money, so he'll probably get some time in nets, maybe tonight, maybe in the next game or so. For the Buffalo Sabres, Eric Comrie came back, returned in a loss on Tuesday against the Kraken. He had been out for almost 2 months, like middle of November. Was injured in a with an upper body injury in the game against the Ottawa Senators, and the loss that he had on Tuesday marks his fifth consecutive loss. The move was controversial because the Sabres sent down Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who's been very popular with the Sabres. He has won 5 in a row for the Sabres, part of their resurgence in the month of December. And although his numbers aren't absolutely fabulous, Uka was winning like 5-4 games and 6-5 games, but he was winning. That's the problem. It's one thing to give up less goals, but if the Sabres aren't scoring as much, then um, you know, uh, it's hard as a Sabres fan because and we'll get into the tough things for the Sabres coming up. So, but I think was a paper move. I don't know that Luukkonen is actually going down to Rochester, or they just made room for him so that Comrie can get some time. Sabres have a ton of games coming up and may need all three goaltenders uh, to get through this stretch. Brendan Gallagher of the Montreal Canadiens is having a rough season. He came back from missing 13 games at the end of December, from November to December, and returned, was injured, and is now out 6 weeks at least for the Canadiens. So just a tough season all around for Brendan Gallagher, and it's only going to get tougher. He'll be coming back right around the trade deadline. I don't know if Gallagher figures in the Canadiens' long-term plans, but with the injury, it makes it hard to trade somebody like that. So um, we'll see if is able to get back before the end of the season. Justin Kirkland of the Anaheim Ducks was released from the hospital on Tuesday after getting in a car accident on the way to the arena for a game against the Boston Bruins. Kirkland is a forward with the Anaheim Ducks. Was recently called up from the minors to help the team through a tough stretch, and it must have been he. They say there are no ambulatory issues, and he's talking and all that stuff. But it was probably a pretty serious car crash if he's kept in the hospital for a couple days. So not sure how long he'll be out for. They haven't said yet, but I'm expecting it to be something kind of lengthy. Um, let's see, Jake DeBrusk. We talked about Jake DeBrusk last week, saying that he had been injured during the Winter Classic game. Um, he was injured during the game, played the entire game, scored both goals in the third period for the Boston Bruins in the 2-1 victory over the Penguins. But he's going to be out 4 weeks now with a hand and lower body injury that he suffered during the game. But gutsy that he got out there and scored and won the game for the Bruins. Max Pacioretty already making an impact. We talked last week that he was close to returning from Achilles surgery in the offseason. He did return. He's played 3 games. First one was quiet, but he's scored a couple. He scored 3 goals in 3 games, and so, like I said, the Carolina Hurricanes are getting healthier, and it's a scary thing because they're already the top team in the Metro Division. There's a good chance that if he's hitting all cylinders, this team could just run away with the division. Finally, injury news: Alex Ovechkin has his duo back. Nicholas Backstrom returned to the Capitals lineup along with Tom Wilson, former host Travis Rednick's favorite player. Uh, they returned in Sunday's 1-0 win against the Columbus Blue Jackets. In 2 games, Backstrom has an assist, while Wilson is pointless, which I'm sure will make Travis laugh. But Wilson was pointless and -2 in 2 games. So good news for the Caps getting 2 of their key cogs back, and they played well in their absence. There was a lot of doom and gloom around the Capitals, and the Caps didn't have the best start of the season, but they have been rolling and moved up in there, fourth in the Metro Division right now uh, in the playoffs as we speak. So they did have a tough game against the Flyers last night, and they play the Flyers again Saturday. Suddenly resurgent Flyers, and we'll talk about them in a minute. Let's see. We did the All Star team, so let's talk about our teams of the week. Yeah, so let's talk teams of the week. Let's go to the Metro Division. We don't have a discipline segment this week because the league has been really well disciplined the last 2 weeks. There's been no suspensions, no fines. Good on you. Way to keep it under control. So no discipline this week. All right. So team of the week in the Metro Division is the Philadelphia Flyers. I talked about them. Man, I watched them play Buffalo, and they just beat the brakes off of Buffalo on Tuesday night, or Monday night. Um, and they're playing torts hockey, 7-3 and 1, 7-3 and 0 in the last 10. Um, but they were tenacious. And when Buffalo's been hitting on all cylinders, they play the same way. It's very tenacious. Don't give you room at all. And I thought, maybe it was a fluke when they beat Buffalo, but then I watched them last night against the Capitals, and they just ran through the Capitals last night. Didn't give the Capitals much room to breathe. So, um, yeah, Philadelphia's playing really well right now. It's might be a little too late for them. They are way back in the division. I think they're still seventh, but it's like Buffalo. It's building. Or what are you building towards? I know Torts is probably a little happier with the effort that his players are giving him this month. Our closest team in the Metro Division is going to be the Columbus Blue Jackets. Not a surprise, they're last place in the division by a mile. They're actually just 2 points back of Chicago for the Bedard sweepstakes. Um, their record's not good. They're way back in the Metro Division. Even if they went on a Philadelphia style run, they wouldn't get anywhere near the Flyers in the division at this point. All right, let's go to the Atlantic Division. The Atlantic Division, Boston. Y- Can't go wrong saying Boston is the hottest team in the Atlantic Division because, like last week, I had them up here. I didn't have to change this graphic all that much. They were 7-0-3 in their last 10. They are 8-0-2 in their last 10 now, with still no regulation losses at home. It's an amazing stat this late into the season. I think they've lost 3 or 4 games at home, but they're all in overtime or beyond. For the cold team of the week, it's again Montreal. They've lost losers of 9 of the last losers their last 11. They're losers of 9 of their last 11. And just sinking off into the sunset. They're not really challenging Columbus or Chicago yet, but they're getting there. Let's move on to the Central Division. Our team of the week in the Central Division is Dallas. They keep the top spot in the division despite some really uh, good challenges from the Jets and the Minnesota Wild. Cl- Colorado has not gotten hot yet. They still have injured pieces. Um, Once they come back, we'll see how the division goes. But Dallas keeps the top spot. They played well over the last 10, 7-3-0. And Jason Robertson's leaving the team. So my call team has changed from the last couple weeks. Arizona supplants Chicago. Chicago is still at the bottom of the division. Arizona, I think, is either 9 or 11 points ahead of Chicago at this point. But Chicago's won 2 in a row. Good on them. Congratulations. Um, and the Coyotes have lost 6 in a row. So they do have a winning record at their home rink. So the College Barn's kind of working out for them. Their record on the road is pretty abysmal, but um, you know, uh, I've got to hand it to Arizona. They've had a better season than I thought that they would, and um, they're going to have to do a lot of work to get back into that Connor Bedard tank race. Although you don't have to finish last in the Bedard tank race because that doesn't guarantee you anything. The way the draft lottery goes, you get like an 18% chance of getting Bedard if you will finish last. Still the best odds, but I would take the 18% chance and play the lottery tomorrow. Um, but yeah, that's all you win if you finish dead last is 18% chance. There's a good chance that you get supplanted for that first overall pick. Let's see. Team of the week in the Pacific Division. We're gonna go with Seattle. They're winners of 6 in a row. Saw them play the Buffalo Sabres Tuesday night, and that was a tough game. Seattle doesn't do anything really flashy, Like I always thought that the Sabres were in that game, and next thing you know, they're losing 4-2. They get uh, a late goal to make it interesting, but Seattle's won 6 in a row, 5 of those on the road, and 5 3 of I'm sorry, 4 of those, in Eastern Canada. So going through Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto, um, 3 of those in Eastern Canada, 1 in Edmonton, and then, of course, the Buffalo game. We're all on the road, so Seattle is on a roll. Looks like this team is a playoff team. And congratulations, Seattle. I would never have predicted Seattle being in the playoff picture before year 5 after their draft, their um, entry draft. So, cold team of the week is Anaheim. Anaheim has the league worst 175 goals allowed so far this season. It's not even close. I think the next worst team has like 161 goals allowed. They're on a pace for 341 goals allowed this season. That is awful, especially when you think of, they've got John Gibson in net. It's just the defense on that team is just a shell. They got lit up last night by Edmonton, which isn't a scandal, but um, you know, it's amazing to me that the defense and the goaltending in Anaheim is that bad. All right. So, our 3 stars of the week for the NHL, David Pastrnak had 7 goals, 1 assist, 8 points in 4 games. Jack Hughes for the New Jersey Devils, 5 goals, 2 assists, 7 points in 3 games. And Rasmus Dahlin, 2 goals, 4 assists in 2 games for the Buffalo Sabres. So, good on Rasmus getting those points. He lit up Minnesota for 5, and the goals that he scored were just scintillating and just putting up the points. So, but good on Rasmus. I think he got his 200th career point in that game as well. So, good to see. Let's talk about my Buffalo Sabres. So, uh, the Sabres minute tonight. Where I got that? Where do I have that? Yeah, Sabres beat. So, this is a make or break time for the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo is right now in one of the busiest times of the year for them. They've got this week they have had 4 games, so they play, and this is the same thing for like the next 3 weeks. They play Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and it's that way almost all the way up until the NHL All Star game. So that's why I said I don't think they're sending Luukkonen all the way back down. I think that's just a paper move so that they can rotate their goalies in and out. Um, but they're going to need all hands on deck, and this is the make or break time for the Buffalo Sabres. That if you can tread and stay in that playoff picture throughout this, it'll be a lot easier as you get closer to the end of the season. If they pull another 8-game losing streak like they did earlier in the season, they're they're going to be sellers at the trade deadline, and they'll be eliminated by that. They can't. They have to at least go 500 over this period, preferably a lot better than 500. Um, they squandered a couple games at home against Philadelphia, a team that they should beat on paper, and Seattle again, another team that they should beat on paper. Um, they can't squander leads like that, and they need better goaltending play from whether it's Luukkonen or Eric Comrie. And I hate to bust him so quickly after coming back in nets from an injury, but Eric Comrie has lost 5 games in a row. He wasn't playing good going into his injury. He I won't blame him for the loss to Seattle. Um, Sometimes the Sabres defense just takes the night off and leaves the center wide open. I don't know why they do that. See, you think they would learn after a while. But no, they haven't. And you need the goaltender to make the big save for you sometimes because you're not going to get Tage Thompson scoring a hat trick every night. You're not going to get Rasmus Dahlin pumping in 5 points a night. Sometimes you need your goaltender to steal a game for you, and they're going to need that as we go through the schedule these next few weeks because it's busy. It's hard to do 4 games in a week, especially if you do it first time. That's one thing. If you do it, oh, hey Jason, thanks for watching, man. I really appreciate it. But it's really hard to do that not just in 1 week, but week after week after week going into the All Star break. Now they're going to get a break after the All Star game, and I get that part of this was because of the issues with the snow, where the Philadelphia game got moved into earlier this week. They're still, I don't think they've scheduled that Columbus game that they were supposed to play. There's a talk that that's going to be at the very end of the season, and but we'll see. Um, Sabres have to get it together, keep it together throughout this period, play at least 500 hockey, preferably better, um, stay in a playoff position or stay at least fourth in the Atlantic Division, fourth or fifth, but in close contact with the fourth place or third place team. So anyway, that's the Sabres beat for tonight. I did not do it when we started the show, but let's take a look at tonight's schedule because it's a packed schedule. Um, We've got let's see, 7 games at 7 o'clock this evening, and it looks like they're just getting underway. The Carolina Hurricanes are in Columbus to take on the Blue Jackets. The Stars are in New York City at the Garden to take on the Rangers at 7 o'clock. The Canadians will be hosting the Predators at 7 p.m. The Kraken and Bruins. Um, we'll see what happens. Seattle six in a row. The Bruins, can they keep the streak alive with home wins? Um, and maybe they get a push and push them into overtime for and keep that streak alive. The Maple Leafs are in Detroit to take on the Red Wings. The Lightning are hosting the Vancouver Canucks. And the Sabres are hosting the Winnipeg Jets. That'll be a tough game for the Sabres. They need a bounce back after the last two losses at home. Because if they lose this one, that means in a 4 game homestand, they went 1-3. I don't think they played really well at home all this season. Not as well as they should be. Not as well as for a team that wants to be in the playoffs. Let's see, our 8 o'clock or 7:30 start. The Islanders will be hosting the Wild. Um, the Blues will be in or I'm sorry, the Flames will be in St. Louis for the 8 o'clock start with the St. Louis Blues. The Blackhawks are hosting the Colorado Avalanche at 8:30 this evening. The Senators and Coyotes in at the College Arena, the Mullet in Tempe, Arizona at 9 o'clock. And then our final game of the night, the Golden Knights will be hosting the Florida Panthers. Okay, this is a chance for Buffalo. If they can win this game and Florida loses this game, it gives Buffalo a little bit more separation, keeps them in that fourth position. And if it reverses, then Florida gets moves into fourth, and Buffalo moves down. This is a good time. Uh, Thanks, Jason, for hopping on. I'm not too much longer on the show, but I really appreciate you joining us. But yeah, so uh, if if it reverses, Florida takes the lead, or at least takes fourth spot in the Atlantic. Again, Buffalo needs to take keep fourth or fifth. Better if they can keep going higher, but yeah, they just need to stack wins. Stack wins, keep stacking points, and keep trying to fight for the playoffs. But anyway, that's tonight's show. I really appreciate you for joining us. Appreciate all y'all folks on TikTok for watching as well. Give me a like, a share, a subscribe, whatever platform you're on. If you're on YouTube or have a YouTube account, please go to my YouTube, Papa Duke. You see it up in the top right hand corner. Papa Duke is the user account name and for YouTube. And give me a subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't really harass you or anything. It just tells YouTube that you like this channel and you want to see it succeed. And yeah, I'm one person away from being 100 viewers on or 100 subscribers on YouTube. So I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I will talk to everyone next week on the Thursday Night Hockey Show.